Hello, Nashville. It is so energizing to be in front of an audience with so many powerful women and a few good men, too. As women enter the workforce in ever greater numbers, they are disrupting age-old, unspoken assumptions about how everybody in business should speak, should act, and should behave. Now, disrupting can be a very good thing. We all know that the workplace can use a little shaking up. But disrupting can be dangerous if you don't know what you are disrupting or even if you are disrupting. And I get 15 minutes to explain what I mean by this. A few years ago, I was approached by the corporate finance department of a commercial bank to come in and speak to their leadership team. They were having trouble attracting and retaining women. I understood this because I had worked in investment banking for Goldman Sachs right out of business school, and I knew the culture. After about an hour into this meeting, the head of the department looked at me and said, "You know, Erin, there are just these unwritten rules. And the guys get them, and the women don't. And then the women break one of the rules, and the guys think, oh my gosh, why did she do that? She just broke a rule." Now, I went to college on an athletic scholarship, so I had been playing games my entire life. I got it. But what I realized is that women, in essence, are the rookies walking onto a field of a game that has been played without them for many years. Let me share with you some startling statistics about how things used to work before they got disrupted. From 1953 to 1970, United Airlines had an executive flight from New York to Chicago and San Francisco to Los Angeles that was male only. Until 1973-74, with the passage of Title IX, which was about academics, not just sports, women in high school and college had to wait for the men to sign up for math and science classes first. And then if there was room, they could sign up. And in the Los Angeles Olympics, Joan Benoit was the first woman to win the gold medal in the marathon. Now, she would have won it sooner than that, but women weren't allowed to run the marathon in the Olympics until 1984. Things have changed. Now, women represent 50% of the incoming professional workforce, which is a cause for celebration. However, there's a disparity between who is coming in and who is at the top, because only 3 to 4% of the CEOs of the Fortune 500 are women. There are many reasons for this. But I propose that this might be one of those dangerous times when disrupting has hurt us. And that disrupting happens if you are unaware that business is a game and there are these unwritten rules. So let's talk about the rules for a minute. Rules are in every game and every sport. And you have to understand the rules in order to be invited to play, and then in order to win. And the business world is no different. It's dangerous if you don't know the rules before you enter into a game. Case in point, Russian roulette. I have identified 5 rules that are not only important, but they're universal in the business world. And I'm going to share those with you today. But first, let's level set a little bit. Those who get there first get to make the rules. That's why they came from Little League Baseball and Pee Wee football. Those are the rules in the workplace. The rules apply to both men and women. Women are not being singled out. And then lastly, play by the rules. That is your decision. No one is telling you what you have to do. Might it hurt your career? It might. The most important thing is that you're aware that there are these rules, and then you can decide what you want to do with them. And it's very appropriate, by the way, to use this sports analogy, because if you think about it, in business, there are goals, and everybody wants to win. So let's start in reverse order with rule number 5. Raise your hand, get picked for the team. This is all about getting visible, making sure people know who you are, because you can't just put your head down and do a good job and think that you will be noticed. You have a voice, and you need to use that voice because it's important. And studies have shown that in meetings, women speak up less, unfortunately are heard less, and are less likely to influence the group decision. So if you're one of those women that says, well, I didn't have anything great to say, I want you to play this game. It's called Rate That Comment. And you're going to write down everybody's name in the room. And then you're going to rate their comments from 5 to 0 on a sliding scale. 5, this is the most insightful thing I have heard in a while. 0, that person just repeated what someone else said. When you add them up, you will find that not every comment is that insightful. The second part of raising your hand and getting picked for the team is making sure that people know where you want to go. Ambition is okay. Let people know you are ambitious. And often, women shy away from using that word ambitious, and it's almost like it's a scarlet A. But I'll bet everybody in this room is ambitious, and you should be. When I was 14, I started playing tennis. I knew nothing really about the whole tennis world, but I decided I wanted to be nationally ranked. So I went over to my coach's house one evening and I said, I want to go to nationals. I want to be nationally ranked. What do we do? And she laid out a whole game plan for me. I followed it, and whoa, I did go to nationals, and I did become nationally ranked, and I ended up getting a tennis scholarship to Duke University, lo and behold, all because I told her where I wanted to go. Rule number 4, know the pitcher and quarterback positions. Teams talk about their quarterbacks and pitchers because those are the positions that are very visible. I have seen quarterbacks on a Wheaties box. I don't know if I've ever seen a tight end or a nose tackle on a Wheaties box. And if I had, I wouldn't know who that was. In every company, there are quarterback and pitcher positions that are very important for visibility. These can vary by company and by industry. So if you are in professional services, for example, banking, whatever, it's probably a client-facing position. If you are at Coca-Cola, it might be in branding or marketing. It is your job to figure out what those positions are that you need to have in order to get where you want to go. Rule number 3, act like you belong in the game. All of us, at some point or other in our career, has thought, I don't belong here. I am not smart enough. I am not experienced enough. I am not fill in the blank enough to be here. I'm a fraud, and I am going to be found out. We've all felt this. We just don't want to make it home. This is called the imposter syndrome. Articles have been written about this. Sheryl Sandberg, who was Phi Beta Kappa at Harvard, writes about it in her book. So it is rampant. You have to realize that you do belong there. You got there for a reason. I went to Harvard Business School on a bet with my mixed doubles partner, Peter Lewis, who was the CEO of Progressive Insurance. Seriously. And he said, I'll bet you $50 that if I write you a recommendation and you take the entrance exam and fill out the application, that you'll get in. I thought that was a pretty good bet. Here I was living in Cleveland, Ohio, working for IBM. I knew exactly one person who had gone to Harvard Business School. Easy. Lo and behold, I got in. Whoa. I packed up my Mazda RX-7 with all of my worldly possessions, drove to Boston the day before classes started. Of course, I didn't know that everybody else had gotten there days before. Anyway, first day of classes, I decided I'm going to get there early to get a good seat. I showed up half an hour early, and I was the second to last person to walk in that room. Yeah, you stayed for the whole first year in the same room with the same students and in the same seat. So these other kids had gotten there the night before and camped out for their seat. Yeah, you want to talk about feeling like a fraud? I don't belong here. And there were guys there who were saying things like, I've wanted to be an investment banker since I was in diapers. I didn't even know what investment banking was. After a few days, though, I looked around and I realized that everybody was in the same boat I was, and I belonged there. And that's what you have to remember. The guys generally think if they're 20% ready for something, they're 100% ready. I felt 20% ready. I was 100% ready. You learn on the job. See, these aren't that tough. Number 2, what happens on the field stays on the field. My son played Little League, and these kids, from the time he was 6 years old, and these kids would go out on the field and have a knockdown, drag-out game, except when they were 6, they'd play in the dirt. But after that, knockdown, drag-out game. And he was the pitcher on his team. So every once in a while, he would hit one of the kids with a ball by mistake, but afterwards they'd all go off the field and have burgers and play foosball together. Because what happened on the field stayed on the field. Same thing happens in business. Healthy work environments expect and encourage divergent views. And with divergent views and diversity of thought, you are going to get conflict. You are going to get heated discussions. This is called ritual opposition. And it's not who's correct or who is right. It's about throwing different ideas out there. And this is a classic difference between how women and men approach the workplace. Because the men know that it's business, it's not personal. And the women are less comfortable with it. Now, I have a friend who's the CEO of a private equity-owned company. And she has recently found that if she pushes back to the chair of the board when she's in board meetings, he respects her more. And their relationship has gotten better because he doesn't want to be the only one telling everyone what to do. He wants someone to push back. Which brings us to my favorite saying in sports. There's no crying in baseball. It's not accepted to let your emotions overwhelm you, whether you're on the field or whether you're in the workplace. On the field, you don't want your opponent to know that he or she got to you. Same thing in business, actually. Now, this is one of the rules that doesn't apply evenly to men and women. Women are tagged with being more emotional than men. This is not true. How many women have you seen have a fist fight in a bar? Thank you. That is emotion. The problem is that stereotypically, people think that women are more emotional than men, and it hurts them in the workplace. I'm going to tell you about a study that was done a few years ago, where the researcher took androgynous faces created on a computer and then put different expressions on them: happy, sad, surprised. And she made them male by putting male hair on them. And then she took all the same faces and made them female by putting female hair on them. And then she had these test subjects come in, men and women, and asked them whether the expressions on these faces were because of that they were responding to an external event, or it was an internal emotion. And the test subjects, both men and women, said that the men were responding to something in their environment, while the women were just being internally emotional. The problem is we hold on dearly to these stereotypes. So let me leave you with a couple of thoughts here. You are all on the front end of change. You may feel that we've been in the workplace forever, but we haven't. We're the newcomers. And we have to remember that business is a game, and it has all of these rules, and we need to be aware of them so that we don't lose at a game that we don't even know we're playing. Because only then can we decide when we want to disrupt the status quo. Thank you.